Welcome to Pixel Realms, the podcast where two geeks dive headfirst into the gaming multiverse. They're basically like Gandalf in a headset, minus the wisdom and magic. So, grab your snacks and level up your patience. Pixel Realms, where the pixels are real, but the knowledge, not so much.
This is Pixel Realms, Episode 8, Behind the Avatar, The Rise of VTubers. I am Joe.
And I am Mark.
And this is going to be a unique episode. This is going to be an episode that's ran mostly by Mark. He's very passionate about our main topic. But before we hop into that main topic, we're going to talk about the new Superman trailer that was released that James Gunn has been working on. So for those who are not in the know with Superman, it was announced a while back ago that Henry Cavill was removed from the Superman role. And then shortly after, it was known that Superman would be rebooted, at least in the universe that's currently established. So from my understanding, the only movie going forward that has any relevance to this new universe, actually, no. Actually, I don't think any movie has relevance to this new universe. The closing of the last universe would have been the last Flash movie, whatever that was called. I can't remember anymore. But so, Mark, what do you think of the trailer?
Mixed bag. I thought the actor playing Superman looked the part. I think because they had said that they're going for a very Christopher Reeves look. So I think he looks the part. As far as I know, this isn't like a full-on reboot. Like, they're not going to do his origin story. They're going to throw us in there with us already kind of knowing Superman and expecting us to kind of have some knowledge of, I guess, Superman lore. At least that's my understanding. I don't know if it's
that's what I heard too. Yeah, James Gunn was very clear early on that it was not going to be an origin story, which is good because we've had many origin stories, and I feel the last one we had with Henry Cavill was a decent origin story.
Yeah, and Superman's origin story has always been fairly simplistic. There, you really don't need to reinvent the wheel there. But yeah, I mean, I thought some of it looked good. Some of it looked iffy. I'm not a fan of having stuff like Crypto to Superdog in it because it looks like they were trying to mix. They're trying to mix that Marvel-esque style of like jokiness while trying to be like have a serious topic.
Yeah, I just felt there's just way too much going on in a 2-minute trailer. Just way over the top, just way too much information. I'm with you, Superdog. We were talking about that just before the episode, but James Gunn, he's fine. He's a fine director, but like I told Mark just before the show that I feel James Gunn is the new Michael Bay of the new generation of movie directors. Guardians of the Galaxy was fine. The 2 sequels were okay. They're good movies. They weren't anything that blew my mind away.
I think you're nuts, personally. Like comparing him to Michael Bay. Let me reiterate. Like comparing him to Michael Bay, because Michael Bay can't make a good film. Like the only thing he can do is push women back like 20 years. Have racist or fart jokes, and then follow up with explosions. I'm just waiting for the explosions to start having explosions. I think the first Guardians movie was fantastic. I thought the second Guardians movie was okay. I definitely don't think it was as good as the first one, but I really thought the third film was really good and a really good culmination of what they were trying to do with Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think it was just okay. I think it was good. The second movie, I agree, just okay. Probably better though than most Marvel movies at that point, other than Captain America and Avengers themselves. Definitely better than the Thor movies. Definitely better than the Iron Man movies. I think James Gunn has the benefit of the doubt, from me at least, that he's going to put out a good movie, at least an entertaining movie. Maybe it's not going to win Oscars, Grammys, whatever the fuck they're called, Golden Globes, the giant penis award. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's going to win any of that stuff, but I think people are going to pay to see this movie, and I don't think people are going to leave disappointed.
I don't
It
know.
just depends on how people feel about Superman in general.
I'll see it. I'm not going to see it in theaters. That's a for sure thing. That when they killed off the previous universe, that was the end of me when it comes to the Superman in that universe. I'm very disappointed. Not that the Superman that they were building in that universe was great. Henry Cavill was great, but the character himself, the storyline, all that jazz wasn't all that great. None of the stories were great overall in that universe, other than maybe Wonder Woman initially. And of
Yeah.
course, the Batman with what they call a Batfleck. He was
Yeah.
surprisingly good. Surprisingly good. I was.
I thought his take was decent. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way in hell he's going to be good, but he was surprisingly really good.
Yep.
The first Aquaman was decent, and then the dude went crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just for me, Superman holds a pretty big part of my childhood. I remember I watched obviously the movies, the Christopher Reeve movies, and I was too young when he passed away and had his accent and all that jazz. But I remember having a Superman toy, and we were driving somewhere, and I had the toy outside the window. He's flying through the air as we're driving, and we hit some train tracks, and Superman fell out of my hand. And I was so disappointed and devastated because that was my favorite toy. It was one of the few toys that actually was the only toy I had that had a fabric cape, real fabric cape and not the plastic crap that a lot of toys have nowadays. That's so cool.
So what you're saying is Superman couldn't fly?
Superman couldn't fly, he crashing down like in the trailer apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I don't know. I hold Superman high. Christopher Reeves was freaking amazing. I don't think there's any way to replace him as Superman. Even Henry Cavill, as good as he was as the next generation of Superman, Christopher Reeves will always be Superman to me. And my wife had this conversation, just like Michael Keaton is always Batman for me.
I mean, that's fair. Superman holds no importance to me. My wife really likes Superman. I think he's boring as fuck.
Well, he's overpowered. There's no doubt. He's very overpowered, and there's very little that can take him out. So that's why you have to have an actor that can portray the emotions, and it's a weird emotions because he's so neutral. He's so monotoned. But so you have to have those facial expressions. You just have to have that blank stare that shows emotion. And that's where Reeves and Cavill did a really good job. Then who's the dude's name that did Superman Returns or something? Brandon something. I can't remember.
Brandon Ross, I think Ross.
Something like that. Yeah. And
Ross.
it wasn't. He wasn't terrible, but it's just the movie sucked. It was awful. The only thing that came good out of that movie was that there's a game that came out, and the game was pretty cool. It was one of the few games you played as Superman, flying around super fast and stuff. That was pretty decent.
As long as it wasn't the Nintendo 64 one.
Oh, yeah, God. Yeah. Anything else we need to add, Mark, into Superman World?
No.
All right. Well, so we don't know how this episode's going to go. This is going to be, as we talked about this, 2 episodes ago? This episode that Mark's going to break down what VTubers is, why it's important, and then explain to me what it is, because I have a very basic level of it. And we had a conversation, I'll be honest, we had a conversation about whether or not we would do an episode on this. Is there enough content? And Mark persuaded me that there is. There's enough that we can help teach others, like he's going to teach me, of how VTubers has become a thing and how it's taken over the internet. So it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, well, we're going to see how it goes. I'm free balling this, as you do. But, yeah, so touching up real quick what Joe said, we had this conversation, I think, I don't remember, either 2 podcasts ago or 3, where the topic that what we were doing, you had brought up why gaming was important to you, right? Like why
Yeah.
how it helped you through hard times
Hmm.
and whatnot.
I think it was the mental health episode.
Yes, it was. Yeah, you're right. It's the mental health. It was the mental health episode, and so where like gaming was for you, I feel like without over dramatizing things or being too cringe or whatever, VTubers in a way, VTubing, certain streamers, certain VTubers in general, I think kind of helped me through a kind of a dark point a couple years ago. I want to say it was 2002. I think was where I'd kind of hit my kind of low. Nothing crazy. I wasn't gonna like unalive myself or anything of the sorts, but I didn't feel right in my head. I'd still been battling with trying to find the right medicine to help me. I was having constant like breakdowns, of whether I'd be breaking down and crying over nothing, over stupid things. Like I could get into me and my wife could have an argument over like not knowing what to do for dinner, and something would trigger me, and I would just start sobbing like a mess. Stuff like that. I lost interest in everything that was important to me. You know, games that I was into, I stopped caring about. Hobbies that I was into, I stopped caring about. And I got into VTubers. I think I was already into VTubers a bit by then, but I don't know what caused the, I guess the switch to go off in my head. I can tell you that I take a lot of inspiration from my favorite VTuber, a streamer named Iron Mouse, who is uh, a lady who is bedridden. Well, she's not bedridden as much anymore. She's been getting healthier, but she has a immunocompromised condition called CVID. Basically, immune system don't work. She can't go outside. She can't interact with people normally, or she can get sick. Just among many things, she was very alone and isolated for a long time, and she gradually grew in popularity and became, quite popular. And as she gained popularity and got bigger, obviously she was making more money, so she's slowly getting better. But that kind of disease is never going to get better. But seeing her like not want to like just crawl under the covers and die was like, I guess there was like something there that was like, okay, she's doing something with her life when she probably had every right to be like, fuck this, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the very least, it was like around that time is when I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to the doctor. I'm going to get my medicine sorted out. I'm going to try and feel better. And things have gotten better. And I credit VTubers and Iron Mouse for that improvement. So going forward, I'm going to start with, so Joe, what's a VTuber? What do you know? What are they to you, or what do you know about them?
Well, the little bit I do know is that it's someone that made a virtual avatar. So instead of if you're watching a stream and you normally see a person's face, that face is replaced with some avatar, and it's a character that uh, the person, think of it like a costume. It's someone that you
Yeah.
want to dress up as. So I feel that's what they kind of want to have their personality as, or what they see themselves as virtually, or they like that, so if they like cats, they would dress up as a cat, and that would be their avatar. And it's a way
So
to not showcase yourself, but still be part of the community and help inspire other people. So privacy.
yeah, you're pretty much on point. It's an online content creator. They usually use a 2D or 3D avatar, and a lot of times they do adapt some kind of persona. Or in some people's cases, their persona is the person they want to be because whatever reason, whether it's uh, you're an introvert and you can't socialize, so you don this moniker of a persona to be the extrovert that you wish that you were, or maybe you're shy, or maybe you're sick, or maybe this or that. Like, so it's pretty much on point, but it also it's more than just like be acting like a character. A lot of times it to some people it's your true self.
Okay.
That being said, a lot of the technology that is behind it, a lot of times you'll see is basically like an iPhone. Really, especially with the 2D models, they're using the face tracking that the iPhones have. And as you know, being a tech guy yourself, granted, I know you're not a big fan of Apple unless that's changed, but
No.
their face tracking technology has improved
Yeah.
quite a bit, quite a lot. There's also programs like Live 2D, Vroid, to name a couple, and Blender is a big thing. Live 2D, for anyone who doesn't know, is essentially it's basically an animation software that basically allows you to animate 2D images. A lot of the times they take on like anime style because, and there's a reason for that, because it's VTubing really originated in Japan, and the use of Blender as well. I don't know. Do you know anything about Blender, real quick, Joe?
No, not really.
Okay. So Blender essentially is taking the model, the art, whatever you want to call it, and you're adding textures to it. You're animating it. You're essentially taking like these objects and bringing them to life, almost like a quasi CGI. Like it's not quite CGI, but it kind of is. So there's a lot of like it's like evolved digital artwork, I guess you could say, because like you're fully. I haven't watched a lot of streams about modeling because it just looks way too above my brain level.
Yeah.
But it's like adding like it's just weird because like you'll watch like a stick figure essentially, and through the evolution using like Blender, for example, you're fully like making it like start moving so that like you can, you know, essentially use like 3D tracking to animate and move this object. So it becomes really, it's really weird, but it's really cool too. But that's essentially a lot of the tech that goes behind it. So like I said, VTubing started in Japan. I don't know what brought about it per se, except for it was really important in Japan. I guess it was really it helped push idol culture, which idol culture is it's a very weird culture, Joe. Like it's essentially idols are, you know, whether it be a singer or a group of singers, they're just like, I don't know, like the fan base is weird. It's almost like they live in a separate world because like you get like a singer and let's say they get popular and they're not allowed to they have to watch who they interact with. They can't talk to the opposite sex a lot of times, or like a scandal will start like, oh, blah 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 was talking to that guy, blah blah blah. It's like, oh no, maybe they're dating, and then like controversies start, and that kind of transferred into VTubing in a way. And the big thing that happened was obviously it was COVID. As you know, COVID shut down the world, and idol culture being very big in Japan. Once COVID had shut everything down, VTubing was kind of developed as a way to continue being, pushing idol culture, but virtually.
Hmm.
So, in your opinion, Joe, you talked about what you thought a VTuber was. Why do you think people VTube like why do you think do you think it's just anonymity? Do you,
No,
because you gotta,
I think it's
go ahead.
persona. A persona.
Yeah.
Like, it's no different than people going to cosplay events, right? They want to be Boba Fett. They want to be, some video game character for the day. Think about myself. Like, my wife and I were going to go to a Comic-Con kind of thing here in the area where I live, and we were going to go as Beetlejuice characters. And I've always wanted to do a full, real cool Beetlejuice outfit and all that jazz, and be Beetlejuice for a day because I think the character is so cool. Now, I couldn't do it streaming because I'd get sued right away.
Oh yeah.
It's an IP, but people do this with characters that they made, personalities that they made, and I think it's kind of cool. It's cool to role play like that for an audience and do it while streaming other content, games, movies, whatever it be. I think the idea is very interesting.
Yeah. So you would say creative freedom, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're, in a way, the creative freedom behind VTubing is it helps people fully express themselves. It can help people create content that they want to make. And then, the anonymity and the privacy behind it, because, for whatever reason, maybe you don't want your face to be seen. Maybe you have, maybe you have a disfigurement of some sort. Maybe, there was an accident and you have scarring and you're very self-conscious about that sort of stuff. And then, so, this virtual avatar lets you, create the content you want to create while not having those features that you hate on for everyone to see. So I think that was another really big thing in the evolution of the popularity of it. Whereas it started as this one thing, and then once it, like, the West got its hooks into it, once Americans started seeing it and seeing what it could be, once technology furthered, it was like, well, it was used for this, but man, we could really go this way with it. So that was one thing. And then again, the motion capturing is a big part of it. And I've watched even just I've really been only watching VTubers since about 2021. So a little over a year after the big start where VTubers really started to take off. And I've seen a ton of improvements just in those couple years. There were times, even a couple years ago, where the expressions that the models could make were very limited, and now there's some of the facial tracking now will fully track with the eyes, the mouth movements. If you're making like a funny noise with your mouth, the mouth will actually move like it's making, like you've made the noise on the model as well as you, the person. So, and like a couple of years ago, you couldn't even do that. So it's just a full evolution in both 2D and 3D. Because think about, there was a time when with 3D, you were kind of stuck in like a cube, right? Like you had, when VR first started coming out, for example, you had to set up little, what were they called? They weren't pillars. What? You know what I'm talking about, right? Those little dongles that you had to put in areas to track the whole area.
Yeah. I don't remember what they're called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then you notice now, even stuff like the Quest 3 that I have sitting behind me, I don't need that shit anymore. It's only time I have to plug my headset into my computer is when or into something is when I need to charge it. So it's gone it's gone a lot more wireless now, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's smart, but you could theoretically, at least me, I could put my headset on and I could walk around my house, like my whole house, inside, of course, and probably not break anything.
Like that, probably not.
Well, it's me, so
Well, while you're talking about the technology thing, I remember, and this doesn't have particular to do with VTubing, but it has an idea in terms of the character creation stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I don't remember what year it was, but this, whatever, 8 years ago, whoever is watching this podcast might know which version of it, but there's an NBA game that came out, NBA 2K, whatever, that for the first time ever allowed you to use an app on your phone to scan your face. And then you can import your face into your character in the NBA game. So when you're playing as that character in the career mode, you could be playing as yourself that looks just like you. Now, there were all kinds of technical issues as well with it, with the first generation, because people's faces were just being all kinds of wonky. They didn't have the right lighting or whatever it be. But I thought the technology level was just absolutely incredible for the time frame. And as every year's come out, they made it even better. And a lot of those issues now are gone. So, and there are other games that do that too, where you can scan your face. Flight Sim that came out in 2024 here last month.
Mhm.
Uh, it was going to have, and I think it's going to come down the road, where you can record your voice, and then when your pilot talks in the sim, you'll hear yourself talking as that pilot, which I think is really cool as well. So, kind of putting together all the technology that has been progressing to help VTubers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all of that kind of technology um, goes right into it, and then likewise, it's VTubing technology that can also get reversed into other forms.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There is I'm not gonna, I'll talk more about it maybe in a minute or two, but just a quick example. There is a content creator who has created a fully AI VTuber, as in she operates independent of him, for the most part. Like they almost stream together, and often like have conversations with other streamers or with each other that look like and feel like full on conversations, like you're talking to another person, and it's a complete programmed AI. And it's crazy because, like, obviously, even 4 years ago, that wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So going with that, you know, with the creation of stuff like that, with technology, VTubers in general, to me, and I feel it breaks a lot of barriers. As I've already stated a couple times, it's like, VTubing, it doesn't matter your skin color, it doesn't matter body shape. What matters is that there are people behind the avatar that want to create something and want to build a community, or just a place to express themselves that they otherwise might not have been able to, whether it be a cultural thing. There are lots of different cultures, obviously. There's language barriers, and I've often noticed, like, there are many Japanese VTubers that I watch, or I've watched, that, yes, I'm learning Japanese, but I'm still nowhere close to being fluent. And that's beyond the point. Even if I knew no Japanese whatsoever, I could watch their content and feel like I'm entertained and engaged. And they don't speak a lick of English, and I don't speak a lick of Japanese.
Yes, that's real.
So
That's really cool.
yeah, so it's really cool to see, like, those barriers be broken. But unfortunately, as we talk about positive things, there's always going to be dark things, and there is a very considerately big dark side to VTubing. Starting with just overworking yourself in general. Um, a VTuber often, not all the time, but often has to do double what a normal streamer has to do to stay current, to stay engaging. Because you got to realize with technology upgrading, uh, your model and the tech behind the model is going to constantly need improvement and changing. There's always work to be done. Whereas like a lot of flesh streamers, regular streamers, you just turn on your stream, turn on your camera, and you go. And there's a lot more behind that with VTubers. I've watched so much stuff. Like it's almost like a rite of passage for the VTubing community. Is if you're a VTuber and you're gonna stream, you're gonna have fucking scuff.
Oh,
Whether it's your computer not working, your model not working, something's gonna fuck up.
We have that problem with just our little podcast.
Yeah,
and it's just
right.
audio.
Exactly. So can you imagine having like this, this elaborate piece of tech or whatnot, like, and have that wig out on you because you've got your iPhone or your phone, you've got your computer, you've got the apps that run things. So a VTuber, most of the time, a live 2D model, you use a program called VTube Studio. That usually has to be running on your phone, so that you can, and then you connect it to OBS. OBS allows the model to show up on your stream, and then OBS is flawed as is.
Oh god,
so,
yeah.
So you've got your iPhone, you got your model, you've got the app, you've got OBS, you got possibly your internet.
It's no different.
Yeah.
It's no different than people who heavily mod like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Where, you play as a police officer, a paramedic, whatever it be. There are countless number of add-ons and mods to completely change the game. One single version of those mods can corrupt the entire thing, and it can sometimes take you forever to figure out what the problem is. Like I watched a guy named Jeff Fabiano. He's really big into role playing in GTA, and there's been many times where he just hasn't streamed or played it for a while because one mod update broke everything, and he doesn't know which one, and it took him forever to figure out which one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then you think about it like this. So, here's a simple question, Joe. How much do you think a VTuber model would cost?
Oh boy. So just doing like a logo and stuff can cost anywhere between $200 and $400, depending on who you get to do it. So I would say over $1,000.
So there are some streamers who have put as much as 30 grand into a model.
Holy Christ. That's a car.
Yep.
It's like a Mazda.
I could tell you, for example, like I said, I've mentioned her already a couple of times, Iron Mouse. She has a ton of models because basically it's her way of playing dress up because she can't go outside. She can't be seen by people. So I guess you could say her play money after she takes care of her family, her bills, her medical shit, and all that stuff, she puts a lot of that money back into VTubing. And her average model usually costs around 10 grand. And she's popping out more than 4 outfits a year.
Jeez Louise.
Like, and that's one person. Right. There's so many other people out there that are doing it. And then, yeah, you're right. I can tell you from experience, I am commissioning someone to do essentially what is called a PNG tuber model, where it's essentially it's a VTuber model, but a step down. It's not going to have a lot of movement. It's just going to have a couple expressions that I could push a button and be like, "Grr, I'm angry," or "Tee, I'm happy." And that commission cost me about once it's all said and done. I'm not including. I'm not going to break it down and everything, but when everything is said and done, it's going to cost me about $300. which isn't terrible, but that's $300 for basically
Couple
art.
images.
Yeah, exactly. So, imagine the what goes into a full-on 3D model or 2D model.
I really quick, I want to touch back
Yeah.
on, you had brought up, like the person, I can't remember their name right now, but they can't go outside and that kind of jazz. And I
Yeah, mouse,
remember,
Iron Mouse.
Iron Mouse, yeah. So I remember, I don't, I don't know how this happened, but anyways, I was watching Twitch and I saw on, on the left, people that you should watch, or you should check out.
Mm.
Um, a name popped up and I was curious what the title meant. So I clicked on them and it was some European person. I'm guessing they were born male, but they want to be or are converting to female
Mm.
gender, but they were dressing up, trying different outfits on, that kind of jazz. And I thought, wow, so this is someone who doesn't care about what the outside world thinks, because
Yeah.
the internet, doing that on the internet is scary dangerous, because
Yeah.
you have people who are just evil and will say things. And this is a person who just wants to express themselves.
Yep.
And that's great that they were able to do that. They feel comfortable in doing that, but many do not. Many do not. They feared putting themselves out there, because there are males who want to become females and just don't have the money or just don't want to do it because of family. There are females who want to become males in the same situation. But you can do that with VTubing, with an avatar, and be able to at least express some of that other gender, or a mix of genders that you want to be, without it
Yeah.
coming out that it's you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's VTubing as well. Is when you have this character that you've created, in a way, it's almost like playing D&D. It's like playing a role playing game or anything like that, but way more advanced, because most of the time with VTubing, you're not playing a character. You are that character. That is a piece of you. That is, that is you, just maybe dialed up to 11 or whatever. That's the you that's not sick. That's the you that doesn't have a deformity. That's the you that wants to be a female, but you're a male, and you either can't get the resources to take care of that, or you have family that you're afraid of letting them find out. Cultures where there's a lot of cultures where women don't have equal rights, where they can't do things that they want to do, and that maybe through VTubing, they can hide their identity, and that they're whatever race or ethnicity or whatever, and that goes with the topic. So there is, especially as you get popular, there is a lot of toxic behavior, just like in everything. There are people who will go as far as to try and dig out any little piece of information that they can, so they can dox you, so they can harass you. Depending on the content you create or the persona that you create, people will, might, criticize you or attack you because, you want to be, your character's, portraying Satan. You're I don't know, you're an alien something. There's just a lot of things that can breed, that certain level of toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Another good example. So there's another streamer that I watch. She uses TTS as her to talk, because she doesn't want. I don't know if it means like deep down secretly she's somebody important, or or I know she's had a bad past, so maybe there's people that are looking for her or something. But she completely uses TTS and the facial expressions of her model to be entertaining, and she's a very, very entertaining person. Mouse is another good example. She got popular enough that she won the Game Awards that we watched last week that Content Creator of the Year award that Queso won. That there was a Japanese VTuber that she was up for the nominated for. Last year, Iron Mouse won that award. And just from winning that award, she got death threats. You know, people threatening to do terrible things to her, if you know what I mean. Attack her family, all because she won a fucking award because she's a VTuber. Because VTubing is growing in popularity, but there is still a stigma behind it. You get there's a what's the stereotype, especially when VTubers started coming out, that every VTuber, especially the female ones, is a 40-year-old 300-pound guy with a voice changer. Like, that's the fucking stereotype. Like, it's
But even
ridiculous.
if that was the case, even if that's the case, let's say 100% of it is the case, are they entertaining?
Right, exactly.
Who the hell cares what it's an avatar? They're expressing who they are, so who the hell cares?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying is, people should think the way you do, the way I do, because at the end, it's a form of entertainment. If you don't like the entertainment, change the
channel.
fucking channel. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why attack a person for doing something that they love? It just goes right back to the topics that we've had before of toxicity. But it's such a weird extreme. I don't understand it. Like, and then, like, another thing is like the VTuber community is very welcoming, but also not. It's really weird. There's almost like a stigma behind the community. Like, you have like this equal. You know what it is? It's two-faced. It's almost like any form of entertainment that we've seen, like Hollywood, like politics, like religion, where oh yes, well, this is great, welcome, come on in, and then as soon as you turn around and leave, man, that person, what a fucking idiot, what a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of a lot of the VTuber community. It's unfortunate, but there's almost like a gatekeeping thing. Has it gotten better? There's not enough time, and this show would run too long as it is, to break down some of the things that I would love to talk about. But there's all kinds of controversies and stuff, as you do with something that gets popular, right? Just like a popular video game. Remember when Vampire Survivors came out, a year, 2 years ago? And, I'm sure there were games like it before, but for whatever reason, Vampire Survivors, maybe COVID, I think maybe COVID was a big part of it too. Like, this game came out, it was like $3, very simplistic, but it got popular. And what happened? 100 other Vampire Survivor type games came out.
Oh, yeah. Flappy Bird was another example.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing with VTubing. As VTubers come out and gain popularity, every day, probably hundreds of other VTubers pop up, and likewise agencies, companies that employ VTubers or people that want to run VTuber companies. There was a streamer I watched the other day. I didn't watch the whole video, so I didn't fully break it down, but there was something like 24 companies closed this year, VTubing companies. 24 of them, and quite a few of them were fairly major companies. That being said, Joe, agency VTubers versus indie VTubers. If you were going to do VTubing, let's say you decided, fuck it, I'm going to stream, I'm going to come up with an avatar, and whatever. When you think of an agency VTuber versus an indie VTuber, what do you think of that particular statement?
My guess would be one is business, so they're throwing a lot of money at it, some sort of corporation of some sort, and then indie, would of course just be an average, Joe off the street doing something.
Exactly. So, I'm not going to go into all the different agencies. There's a company called Cover Corporation and another company called Any Color. They're Japanese based. They are, I guess you could say, the top two VTuber agencies, Niji Sanji and Hololive. With those kind of agencies, now not all agencies are like this, but we'll just go with the big corporate ones. Essentially, you go through an audition process like you're an actor, like you're trying for a role. You basically, if you are hired, you are given a bunch of financial support, technological support. Often these companies give you the equipment, whether it be I'm pretty sure they give you the phones and even the streaming machines themselves, as well as the avatar that you are going to be portraying. So that in a nutshell is agency VTubing. Is you've got managers, you've got editors, you've got people that are promoting you, getting you sponsors, but you're playing a character that they want you to play. Yes, you could put yourself into it. Oftentimes, that's what makes these VTubers, especially the big ones, popular, is that you pass the audition, you're given this character, and you make that character your own. Like, you are that character. The big difference is you don't own any of it. You get a paycheck like a regular job, but if you leave the company, that's it. If you've been streaming for, let's say, 4 years as, Joe VTuber, and you're working for Any Color or Cover Joe, and you say, that's it, I'm done. Joe VTuber and all the content that you've created no longer exists. A lot of the times they'll shut the channel down. They close the social medias attached to it. Sometimes they leave the content up so that the fans can still watch it. But essentially, they own that. You were the character. You provided the voice, but make no bones about it. You don't own anything. You start over from scratch. Whereas VTubing in the indies essentially is obviously the exact opposite. You own everything, but then you also pay for everything.
That's kind of,
but
it's kind of no different than like a wrestler. Unless you become a major, person, The Rock, Undertaker, etc. You typically have to leave that persona at that. If you're going from the WWE to AEW,
AEW,
you may not be able to bring that same character over because you don't own it. Now the landscape has changed a lot with some of that stuff, but there's no doubt Keanu Reeves can't take John Wick over to Universal Studios to the next John Wick movie because Warner Brothers or whoever it is, Lionsgate, whatever studio it is, owns that character, that right.
Yeah, and that's honestly, it's funny because you say that. Professional wrestling and VTubing, at least agency VTubing, is actually probably the closest thing to similarities that I can think of off the top of my head.
Oh, interesting.
It actually is very funny. Like, now, obviously the slight differences with wrestling, matches are predetermined, but the combat itself is still real. The injuries are still real. Storylines are and whatnot. It's kind of the same thing. VTubers, a lot of times they have their own lore, their character has its own backstory. So it very much is professional wrestling, only kind of digitally streaming. So obviously with that, creative differences is a big thing with VTubing. An agency VTuber, they can't just stream what they want. They can't just say what they want. There are guidelines, rules, right down to what you play. If your company doesn't have the rights to say, let's say you're a big Dark Souls player, you love the Souls games, you want to stream these games for your audience. If your company doesn't have permission from Soft to stream the games, then you can't play the game.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stream any of that content because they get permission from those companies so that they can monetize. And with indie VTubing, you could pretty much play, say, or do whatever you want within certain things. Like Twitch, you obviously have to follow Twitch TOS. YouTube, same thing. But there's no real stopping you from playing the Dark Souls games if you want to play them, etc. So that's the one big difference there when it comes to that things. And then the other thing is exposure. So going back to those two companies that I told you about, Cover Corporation's Hololive and Any Colors Nijisanji. Up until this year, I'm not going to go into the controversies that happened, but Nijisanji, let's just say Nijisanji's taken a big hit. But before this year happened, if you auditioned for Hololive or Nijisanji and you got in, you were basically guaranteed something. Let's say, Joe, how many subscribers off the top of your head do you have on your YouTube channel?
Over 3,000.
So you have 3,000, right? So let's say you auditioned and you got into Hololive. Your 3,000 becomes 300,000.
Okay.
Just by having Hololive attached to your name. Essentially, you gain about 100 to 300,000 new subscribers because the brand Hololive is so well known that you're associated with it, and boom, instantly. It's basically a way you make it. It's the way you make it. If you are a small content creator that has been, struggling, whether you're a face cam streamer or a VTuber, and you get into Hololive, for example, you're made because you could be a great entertainer, and for whatever reason, you can't get off the ground, and you're getting 10 viewers, 100 viewers. You have 3,000 subscribers. Your debut, that's what it's called. It's called a debut when you debut a new persona with these companies. When you basically debut a VTuber character, your debut usually breaks like 50, 60, 80, 100,000 viewers on that first stream alone.
Nice.
So, it's crazy. And then before it used to be taboo, again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it used to be taboo to, when you joined an agency, like your past streaming persona or channel or whatever kind of needs to be wiped from existence. You don't actually have to delete it, but let's say, for example, you join Hololive, you essentially would have to take your current channel and basically private it because they don't want anything leading back to your old content.
Okay.
There's like that stigma there of like, you're working for us now. This is who you are now. It's a very Japanese mentality. And a lot of it is with a lot of the controversies kind of going on today that I wish I could really dive deep into. But again, that's a whole other can of worms to dig into. But essentially, there's a very Japanese stigma where Japan being a very male-dominated thing. That's why female VTubers got so popular because the males watched it. Male VTubing actually kind of started getting big over here in America. There were still male VTubers in Japan, but it really was a female thing because of the idol culture. So, and that's kind of a part of it now. It went from being idol culture where you had a model and you put on concerts and you sung and you created songs and you even put out albums and you even had a full especially with the advancements in technology, especially with 3D, there are full concerts now, Joe. I kid you not. I watch them the English side of Hololive just put on their second concert in July, and they sold out I think we were in New York this year, and they sold out a concert hall in New York.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. And the crowd, there wasn't an empty seat. It was like it was like you were going to a sports game. Hell, just a few months ago, there was a collaboration between Hololive and the Los Angeles Dodgers, where some of their people would show up on the big screen. One of their current most biggest VTuber, Stung, take me out to the ball game, and thousands and thousands of people saw that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So that leads me into the future. So the future is development, right? Like it's changing pop culture and entertainment the way we know it. A lot of people now watch streamers and in part VTubers more than they watch TV, cable. It's almost like a dying art form. When streaming became a big thing, and COVID and everything, it's like I don't want to say it's a once in a lifetime thing, because like it's evolution, right? Like probably every 10, 15, 20 years, there's some kind of big evolution in our world. Whether it's like the advancement in cars, right? And then they went from one thing to how advanced they are now. Planes, you name it, right? Like it's an evolution. Every few years, something big happens, and it changes the foundation. And VTubing's kind of that way now, where it's changing the way people stream. It's changing the way people are entertained. They're being integrated into pop culture, just like popular YouTubers. Like I'm so outdated, so like people like Ninja aren't even relevant anymore. But 5 years ago, right? I think it was like 5 years ago, when people like Ninja, like people were like, yeah, my favorite person, I want to grow up to be like Ninja. It was like a big Fortnite streamer.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like becoming that way with VTubing. So yeah, I guess segueing off of that, and to close everything out, because I know, Joe, for example, you yourself don't know a lot about the actual thing of VTubing. You don't watch VTubers, outside of like what VTubing is kind of, but you don't know, like you don't go in and watch streams like I do. So kind of segueing off of that and talking about evolution, what kind of technology that is used for streaming, or would you like to see be incorporated into streaming, that you want to see improve, evolve over the next couple of years? Is there anything that really like sticks out to you?
Well, for me, honestly, it's the quality of. So you brought up earlier, but I use OBS. We're using OBS to record this, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
one of the big things is, in order to have high quality output for OBS, you have to have a high end rig
Yep.
to produce that. And so if you're only using one system to be both your recording device and your, let's say, gaming system, you're using resources of OBS while you're trying to game, which then you lose performance, which then on top of the performance hit with OBS itself, you're providing an experience to the end user that isn't nearly as good as what it can be if you're not recording. So if they
Yeah.
can find a way to reduce the demand of encoding with programs like OBS,
Oh yeah.
and still have a decent output while streaming or recording, I think that'd be huge overall for streamers, especially those that do gaming streaming, because there are content
Yep.
creators that don't do gaming at all. They build Lego sets, they paint, they,
Yep.
do car stuff, whatever. There are so many different, hundreds of millions of different opportunities, hobbies you can do on YouTube or Twitch. But if you want to game, or if you want to do anything that requires resources, heavy resources on your system, or right now, like OBS and that thing is going to be a huge issue.
Yeah, there are people, like not just VTubers, that are using dual rig setups. So they've got their gaming rig, and then they've got another whole PC just to run OBS, their models, their tech, whatever. Like, it's crazy that some people are having to run two computers at the same time just to have a fluid stream because of the strain.
The plus side to doing something like that, though, which I had thought about, because I have an old laptop sitting around that could easily run OBS. But the big plus side of doing that is that if your system crashes, at least the stream's still up.
Yep.
And then you just wait for your system reboot and then launch into the game and all that jazz. But of course, then you're using additional power, and what if that laptop drops off, or your other system drops off, you don't notice it, and you're doing whatever game for half hour, an hour, not recording anything.
Yeah, and going off of that, there's a couple things. One of them being OBS, I agree with, because there's I'd like to see advancements in it, because like there's people there's things now. I think it's through OBS. There's a setting that you can do where essentially you can mute some of the audio, but like you're almost running like dual audio. So like, for example, if you want to listen to copyright music on your stream while you're streaming, but it doesn't record that audio. So like you can, so because there's copyright shit, there's DMCA shit on YouTube and Twitch. So they essentially run a dual audio, so they can run their music and anything that they want cut from the VODs on that dual audio, and then have their streaming audio be the other audio. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I'd like to see, like evolutionary type stuff, where it's a little more simplistic to like change of scenes. I guess maybe more incorporation with like a streaming deck type thing, where there's not a lot of setup. There's like the setup's a lot more simplistic, because I can tell you from experience that like setting up OBS, and then like I haven't even gotten into mixer shit yet. Like to have like a professional stream is intimidating. Like just learning like the mixer program, how like hotkeying everything to be able to like press this button for it to do that, and that kind of goes hand in hand with VTubing as well, because a lot of these people that they get their models made, and once they're rigged, there's all kinds of things rigged to the model. Facial expressions, certain changes in like look. Maybe they're wearing a hat, maybe they have glasses on, so, and that's all hotkeyed as well. So there's a lot that could go into something, and it can be very intimidating. So I'd like to see that improve. And then the other one's very basic, and it's something that's been talked about the entire episode, is just more improvement with tracking. Mm-hmm. Just full on, because like facial tracking has gotten a lot better, but you have to buy, like, there's not a whole lot going on unless you're in full 3D. There's not a whole lot going on with like arm movements or certain things. Just something. I don't really know what I'm looking for, because obviously there's a 2D model and a 3D model. If there's too much evolution in the 2D side, then you're basically going to be 3D at that point. But I don't know. There's just something there where I'd like to see more with like tracking, maybe with hand movements, or just the face movement as well, because a lot of the streaming as a VTuber is facial expressions, not just talking, not just being goofy or silly. It's just like a regular cam streamer. A lot of times people will watch a cam streamer because they want to see the reaction to shit. Mm-hmm. The facial tracking with VTubing and its evolution is very, very important to add to that entertainment, to be a part of the show, I guess. So, the eyes getting big when something shocking happens, or maybe like the quiver of like the quiver of your mouth, like that kind of stuff. It's going to improve, so that's why it's kind of small to me, because it's already going to improve. It's just that's one of the big things I want to see continue to improve as well.
That'd be really cool. Really cool.
So, with that, I mean, this episode would have benefited more if we were maybe a bigger podcast and we were more on the video side, because I would have liked to have been able to like segue clips of things in there, or just to like, so that there was a visual representation. So unfortunately, you just had to deal with me talking about it. But it's important to me, and I really felt like I wanted to get it out and talk about it, so that way it's kind of like a weight lifted off my chest, so that we can move on to other topics that are more engaging. Because obviously with these kind of shows, when one of us has a particular thing that we're into and maybe the other person isn't into it or just doesn't know a lot about it, it's a one-way street. But it's not any less important. Like I want to do a show on like flight sim down the road, where I know that's your bread and butter, and I know you're going to be like, bring me in and have me on the ride. It's kind of the same thing with this, with like why I wanted to expose some of that world. And yeah, there's more to it, but that's a whole nother can of worms. And I thought it was more important to talk about the technology behind VTubing and sort of the things that go into it, and why it's becoming mainstream, because it's not quite mainstream yet, but it's getting there, where VTubers are becoming household names, or popular YouTubers are becoming VTubers.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't know of VTubers. I've heard of the reference prior to you telling me about it, but I didn't know anything about it. Very, very little. So, this episode more than anything was just to help people understand what it is. And that's a lot of what our show is, we explore a lot of the mental health, the impact on our bodies as people when it comes to gaming, and VTubing is part of that as well.
Yeah. And so hopefully, people learned something and they weren't too bored with it. And at the very least, I would love, like, this episode, for even if just one person or two people listening says, you know what, I'm gonna look up a VTuber. I'm gonna look up some of these more popular VTubers and just see what they're about, and and see if the entertainment's for them. Because sometimes it will be, and sometimes it won't. Just like any form of entertainment, right? There's going to be a VTuber for everyone out there, because it's not about the virtual avatar. It's about the content that they're putting out. It's just that they choose to express themselves through a virtual avatar.
Yeah, absolutely. Entertainment is entertainment, and everyone is, unique on their own with it. So.
Yep. Exactly. But yeah.
Anything else we can add, Mark?
No, that's it from me. Do you have anything that you want to throw out there?
No, I think it was a great episode. A lot of fun. And the next one, I think, if all goes to plan, will be about AAA gaming. So this shall be an interesting ranting episode, probably. But you never know. God. You'll never know.
I'm dying to have my voice back to 100%. So for something like that, because I want to bitch about it.
Well,
fucking AAA gaming.
Don't go too much. We'll have our moment on the next episode. Yep. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.